Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today, Kaiser University Multidisciplinary Center, as we present Keeping Students Motivated, Literacy in the Summer, presented by Dr. Jessica Fuda Daddio.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that introduction. Yes, this is me, Dr. Fuda Daddio. Let me go back here. Okay, so we are talking about keeping students motivated, literacy in the summer. And this presentation will be primarily for teachers. And the reason I say that is we have some webinars coming up on Thursday and then Monday, part 1, part 2. There's going to be more focused towards parents. However, some of the things that I'll share here, I'll be sharing again during the parent presentation, because no matter what we do in our schools, we need to also get families involved. So that's why you're going to see kind of an intertwine of the information being presented today to teachers and being presented to parents later. So I am Dr. Fuda Daddio, and just like Eileen said, I am an advisor and a professor at Kaiser University. I teach in educational leadership. However, my expertise and my dissertation and all of the things that I do consultation wise is primarily in literacy. And with that being said, there's a lot of things that I do with current teachers right now with consulting that tries to promote more literacy, especially in the area of special education, 7th through 12th grade. So I'm going to share with you here just a little bit, maybe almost changing our mind frame on what literacy really is and how we can really promote that to our students. So that's kind of where we're heading today. So the description, I guess I kind of already gave it to you, but I'm going to remind you, this webinar will explore how to keep students motivated and continuing their literacy learning throughout the summer months. And another big piece here is to kind of not think about technology so much. Our students have been on technology more than ever, probably now with the pandemic. And so what we want to do is give them things they can do external from technology. Technology is going to be a given, especially for our high school students who have a cell phone, who like to be on social media or text messaging or emailing or whatever they do these days. But we want to try to give different things to engage students outside of technology. And so I'll be talking about that primarily today, how to get them kind of more motivated outside of the use of that technology. So the objectives today, we are going to explore the definition of literacy. And if you have been following my webinars, you'll notice that I do this a lot, but it's really important for us to all understand that definition of what literacy truthfully is. Participants will learn how to promote summer literacy. We will explore how literacy is different for high school students and discuss activities that can keep students motivated and engaged in literacy. So lots of literacy stuff today and just getting our students engaged. So the power of literacy, let's start here. It is absolutely everywhere we look. Everywhere right now, no matter where you're at, no matter what you're doing, you are doing something with literacy, especially if you're sitting here listening to this presentation. So you're using your listening skills and comprehending what I'm saying. And in that case, then you are actually utilizing literacy. So when we think of literacy in such a simplistic form, we need to stop making it so complex or putting it into a box of one thing. And a lot of times when we think of literacy, we do think, I guess I want to think more so of reading. I think a lot of times that's where we focus is in reading. And we should be, and that's 100% great. However, when we're trying to get students motivated, and especially at the high school level, middle school too, a lot of times by the time they get to you, they're defeated. And literacy and reading and writing, it's not something they enjoy doing. It's hard for them and they don't want to do it. And to motivate them to want to is very tricky to do. But you can if you can rethink your way of teaching and promoting literacy. And so as simple as I just said to you, you listening to this presentation, looking at my PowerPoint slides, reading the power of literacy, it is everywhere. If you're doing that at all, then you are actually embracing yourself in this idea of literacy. So the other thing to think about when we think about literacy being everywhere, when you're driving, and you come to a stop sign, it's literacy, right? Because there's the stop sign, the red sign that says STOP. That means stop. Think of all the things happening in your brain automatically just because of that stop sign. And the way that our brain is understanding that that means stop. So I'm going to stop here. So we're comprehending what that means. So again, think of the simplistic form of literacy, and we can promote this in more than one way. So many times, and I'm just going to jump ahead, we have a tendency of telling students that they need to read 20 minutes a day. Okay, well, reading is a struggle for them. And now you're making them struggle for 20 minutes a day. That is not going to help them. It's not. It is going to make them dislike reading more. So you need to be more creative in what we have them doing for that 20 minutes of literacy that you're telling them you want to do at home. The other thing to think about is if we are assigning homework such as that 20 minutes a day read. And actually the Florida Department of Education, that is their thing, like 20 minutes reading a day. And I agree with this idea if we think about it differently. But if you are telling a struggling student to go home and read for 20 minutes and that's their greatest struggle, then I don't believe that's going to motivate them. I'm not going against what Florida is saying because everybody is telling us to do this. I'm simply saying, let's just think outside the box of what we mean by what that looks like. So, okay, the other thing is, think of this, going to a restaurant. You're reviewing the menu. So you're reading. Even if you're just looking at pictures, you're reading. And then you place your order, you're communicating your order to the server. That is all literacy. Filling out a happy birthday card. So let's say it's somebody's birthday and you get a birthday card for them and you fill it out. So not only did you read the birthday card, but you also filled out the birthday card by signing your name. That is literacy. Anytime you are texting, emailing, social media, it's all literacy based. So what I'm trying to get us to think about, and I keep saying this, I think at every webinar, is to get out of this idea that students have to be able to read a book from beginning to end. Really, the idea is that they are able to be literate in society. And especially when we get to the high school level, it is no longer about them sitting at a table reading a book. It is about them understanding the world around them. It's about them having experiences in order to create an understanding of the world around them and compare that to what they're learning so they can start to build on that learning process. That's the power of literacy. So again, I'm a huge literacy person, big reading person, but I believe in the idea of text whenever we are beginning them out in reading, and a lot of them need to go back to that. Going back into their textbooks, or not textbooks, but just books in general, to be able to see the plot of a story. But it really depends on your learner as to how deep you're going to go with that. And then if you want them to be motivated, they have to feel success. They have to. And if they are continuously struggling and they're, not able to read the words on the page, we are not helping them. And so one of the things in the summer, that a lot of times happens is we're telling them that we want them to continue to read their stories and do these types of things. But I was reading some research actually as I was preparing for today, and it said more than 80% of students, when asked when they come back to school if they read over the summer, say no, not at all. And the interesting part of that is then you have to think about their definition of what reading is. Their definition, obviously, is that reading is reading a book. And so we're already hurting them with that knowledge. So we want to change that, change the landscape. So as I already kind of said, but I'm going to say this again, but literacy is reading. Yes, absolutely reading anything, a stop sign, a menu, a book. Literacy is writing of any kind, signing your name on a card, being able to write a story, being able to write a poem, being able to write a song, being able to draw a picture that has meaning. Those types of things are all writing. It's all literacy. It is thinking. Thinking is so critical, as we know, but I will share this with you as well. If our students are struggling in reading, right, and they think that's what literacy is, then now we're looking at this idea that they aren't wanting to critically think about a text And we also need to think about how easy it would be if we shared with them this idea of that stop sign and how it makes our brain think our brain knows to stop. That's comprehension. And then you have to think about conversations we have with one another, how deep we go in those conversations, and the synthesis and analysis that happens, inferencing, right? Playing that game of charades, knowing that, okay, so if she's making that face, she must be mad. All of those pieces are thinking. All of those pieces are literacy. Speaking, be able to have a conversation with somebody. As we know with technology these days, conversations and interactions with other people are tricky with our younger people. And I'm saying that, and I'm generalizing, please know that. But I'm just saying that on a regular, it's difficult to have a conversation sometimes because of the switch over to technology. Does that mean technology is a bad thing? Oh gosh, no, I would never say that. I think it's advanced us, but it's also kind of hurt us in the sense of being able to communicate with one another appropriately. So speaking is a big one. And when we think of literacy as speaking, then we need to be thinking about students not sitting down by themselves reading a story, but instead going out and having conversations with other people. And speaking is also goes along with this idea of listening. So being able to hear what people are saying, comprehend what they're saying, and be able to respond in an appropriate way. So when we think of all of these pieces of literacy, and then we tell students you need to read for 20 minutes a night, we're defeating everything. We really are. So I want to change that. So that's the goal. So the first thing we need to do is think about the title of this presentation, which was about motivation in the summer months, being able to get students to be motivated to stay active in literacy. And again, so if we change our mindset and what literacy really is, and then we turn into, well, okay, if they read, I'm going to do this, right? So I don't know, back in the day, they used to have this program with Pizza Hut. It was called Book It. I don't know if that's a thing they do anymore, anything similar to that. But like you would read so many books and then you would get like this stamp and you would collect all these stamps and you'd be able to get a free pizza. That's all external motivations for us to read or for us to do anything, right? You play a sport, you get an award. You do something, everything's always external. And then if you don't get it, you're defeated. So the idea here and what I share with you is this: if we can change this idea of what literacy really is and turn it into just this idea of being human and living in society, could we then maybe take away these ideas of external motivation and turn it into internal? And by doing that, students then want to do it, want to be part of literacy, want to understand it, because they themselves know it's going to be beneficial for them as people, especially in society. My last presentation was about employment. So if we realize that our literacy is what gets you the job, and it is, that is what will get you the job. The skills, the things that you do on that job, meaning like the technical skills, those are things that you can learn. On the job, you can learn through experience. You can learn them as you go into college, if that's even a thing you're going to do. But to be able to be literate, to be able to understand, that's a whole different thing. So when we start to get students to understand that what we're teaching them really does deal with the real world, it will enhance their lives and the lives of everybody around them, then maybe we can turn external motivation into internal. And that, my friends, will help them in the summer to want to do rather than feel like they have to. So internal motivation, so this idea really goes with emotion, like to know that I'm going to, me, myself, I'm going to, do better. I'm going to be consistent. I'm going to be persistent. I'm going to build strength. I'm going to feel a sense of accomplishment. So those feelings, those internal feelings that we get that bring joy to us, right? That's what brings us to that internal motivation. Like we are motivated within ourselves to do better. Not because I'm going to get a sticker at the end and maybe a free pizza if I'm good at it. But instead, I'm doing this because it's actually helping me to be better. So we change that, which goes with, again, external, which I've already talked about. But this idea of external motivation is what high school students struggle with the most. I don't care if they're in special education. I don't care if they're in regular education. It does not matter if they're gifted. It doesn't matter where they are. Think of yourself as a middle school student. Think of yourself as a high school student. There's a lot going on in their little and in their minds, and this idea of acceptance and you know, not feeling as if they're less than. And, you know, even as adults, we struggle with that, right? Our worth. But external motivations and factors that can cause the students to feel like they're less than really would be a program like Book It that I shared earlier. Because what if they don't have the opportunity to read all those books? We don't know what's going on at their home. So there's so many things going on that are variables that could impact them to feel less than. So, or to not be, you know, voted to eat lunch with the teacher, because there's a lot of other things going on. And we do need to keep that in perspective. It doesn't mean that we don't have expectations. It just means that we keep it all in perspective. So external motivations, like motivators that happen outside of us, are those ideas of approval. So like if I read all these books, then my teacher's going to think I'm good and she's going to approve of me, or my parents are going to think this of me. Although that's natural of us as humans, it certainly is not something that we want our students to leave us with, this idea that if you do, you'll get externally. Instead, we want to, again, make it intrinsic in the fact that we want them to go out and do because it's going to help them, you know, and by helping them, we help others. The other thing is status. So, you know, I always think of social media. And when I talk to high school students, I always talk about this idea of status, right? Like, so, you know, you're the smart one or whatever it might be, or what we present out to the world is important to high school students, is important to everybody, sadly. So like I think of social media because I think of those posts they put on which by the way is literacy, those posts they put on Facebook or Instagram, or I think they're doing TikTok now. But those types of things that we look at and we believe that to be real of the world, when in all actuality, it's just a moment. And it's something that students then comprehend in to think that they're less than because of what they see. But never do you see somebody post a picture of them in the, you know, in the corner of their closet crying because of a bad day. You see all the smiles and happiness. And that's the way that we, you know, society can kind of impact us. But status, and so that's kind of deep for what we're talking about, but status is something that matters to people. It is. How many likes did you get? And so if we think about the external motivators that we're giving to them in reading and, you know, whatever else you're doing for literacy, then we want to be sure that we're not making it a status quo. Like we're not saying, well, okay, if you read 10 books, you know, this is good, you know, in the summer, shoot for 20, you know, no, why? Anyway, so that external motivator is status to make us feel good about ourselves in a very fake type of way. Fear. So we can sometimes be motivated by fear. And fear is external. There's, you know, we fear things in the future. That's what we fear. And the future, we don't even know if that's going to happen. So we start to worry and get anxiety. And if we have students with special needs who are now fearing whether or not they're going to be able to do all of these things in the summer for their teacher, for their parents, we are actually defeating our purpose of motivation, of true, honest motivation. You know, it's present day, what's happening in your present day. That's where we want to focus with our students to get them to focus on. We don't want them to be fearful to not accomplish. We want them to feel accomplished as they go. It's a whole different mind frame. Another external motivation for people is money, right? So if you read 10 books, you know, I'll give you $5. Now, us as teachers, we certainly don't do that, but money is a motivator. I mean, that is a given motivator. And in society, guess what? It's a necessity at the end of the day. So money is external though. And we obviously aren't going to, like I say, you know, tell students, well, if you do this in the summer, then, you know, but instead, again, it's reality though, too. We do want to teach them right when they're getting jobs that they need to get money for what they do. But motivation should be bigger than money. So when I was talking to high school students about what they were going to do after high school, they said to me, oh, well, I'm going to go to college. I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to do, you know, whatever job they could think of that made a lot of money. And I had a whole conversation with them about that idea, this external motivator of money. So you can have all the money in the world and be the loneliest person ever. And we see that all the time with famous people even. So to change that perspective, what you want to do is you want to share your gifts and your talents, what you love, with people. Again, my friends, that's literacy. But if you can think of it that way, and people, there's that saying out there, which I don't really like, but they say, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. But if you do love what you do, then every day you wake up will be a good one, right? Because we are doing what we love, and it's not driven by money. Money will come whenever you follow what it is that you love. So we change again that landscape of thought. And I think so. The reason I share the internal and external with the examples I've given is because it's so important for us as teachers to not always think external, and what they get if they get some, if they happen to accomplish something, it needs to move into a more intrinsic place, not external. And it's hard to do. I know when I was teaching myself, kiddos, I remember there was a point when I first started where I was giving them things for, if they had a treasure box, I had all this stuff. And then they started to expect it. Like that was the expectation, was that they would get something by doing something. And I made a big mistake. And so I brought them and I talked with them about that and the importance that we no longer do that. And I explained to them why it's so important in the real world for what they were learning with me. And it wasn't so much about a treasure chest or another extra snack or whatever it was that we would give them. And it changed the whole perspective of my classroom. It changed everything. And they began to feel like they were like masters at whatever I was teaching them. It was pretty amazing. An example I'll share with you, and I know this is kind of on topic, kind of not, but it just got me thinking about them being masters of something and really intrinsically owning it. I was teaching the students about poetry. And teachers, a lot of times, and I say this generalizable too, but I say this only because of the teachers I've consulted with. Poetry is not their favorite to teach a lot of times. But the reason is because it's not black and white. It is definitely not black and white. So it's hard to teach it. It's hard to get students to think about it because we all come from different backgrounds and different experiences that cause us to read a poem and all of us to think a little differently about it. But I was teaching them poetry, and I remember, and so it was a genre of writing. And I remember, we dove in, and, the students didn't believe they were poets. And so we did all these examples and I talked them through. There's a book. Oh, it's such a good book. Oh gosh, I have to think about what it's called. It's about a dog. It's yellow. It's a yellow book cover. I will think of it. But anyway, that was our beginning to poetry, was me reading this story to them about this little boy who didn't think he was a writer. And he would write down things on his notepaper, but not even realize that he was a writer. And because he was writing, right? So then he started to realize as the book goes on that he had a story to tell and that his poetry was beautiful. And he became so motivated by that. It wasn't because the teacher gave him a star. It was because he started to see his story unfold. And so it was so, it became more so internal rather than an external reward of being a writer. So as we went through this, I was, using their papers as examples of what they could and couldn't do. I don't want to say that, but what was going well and what was going, not going well. We'd have conversations and conferences as a class. And so the next, I don't know, probably a week or so, I was getting observed by the superintendent of the school district. And my students, she came in to watch writing. And so, we do our writing lesson. The kiddos are back at their seats. They're so excited. And they have their writing folders and they're just writing away. And it's as quiet as can be, which, by the way, that's up to you if you want quiet or if you want music. But it was quiet. I mean, they had their little poetry hats on and they were writing away. And what happened was they are so proud of themselves as poets that they started to get up and line up to share with the superintendent their work, because they felt that she needed to see what they were capable of. And at the end, I remember the superintendent coming over to me and she's like, Jessica, did you have your students do that? I said, I had nothing to do with that. I mean, these kiddos are writers and then they know they are. and they want to be sure that everybody hears what they have to say. And so it was like a whole, like, so the reason I share that story is because it's powerful in the sense that you teach to help students realize what they are and what they can do. And we don't teach to make them feel like they're less than. And a lot of times we don't even mean to do that. And so that's why the importance of what I say over and over again, let's change this landscape of what literacy is. We actually will motivate them to want to do things and realize that they can. And at the high school and middle school level, that I cannot express to you, and I'm sure you know it too, that is probably the most important thing that we can do for our students, is to help them to realize that they are capable, they are worthy, and they can accomplish almost anything if they want to. So that's my motivation speech for all of you. But continuing with motivating, so on the left side here, I give you some action verbs: help, celebrate, empower, provide, and guide. And here's where I'm going with this. I want you to help students feel the internal fulfillment of what they are capable of. So I just gave you that whole conversation. I won't go any further into it, but if we could somehow help them to see that they can, right? We want to help guide them in that way. Celebrate their accomplishments. This is not always through an external reward. Sometimes you just saying, holy moly, you did that. Like, you did that. Nobody else did. You did that. It changes them. Like, and yes, you're proud of them and you're making them feel that external piece, but internally they're feeling this fulfillment because they did something wonderful. And it could be just a baby step forward, but it's something that we celebrate. So always see the small things in your students and celebrate those things. Empower the students, right? So that again goes with this idea of celebrating, but empower them with your words, empower them with what you believe they're capable of. If you can set an expectation for them that's quite high, the students will strive to meet it. Our biggest defeat is when we don't do that. I could share another story with you, but let's see if I have time. If I have time, I will share it with you later. But if we don't believe in our students and we don't believe they're capable, then they're not going to either, period. That's really what that comes down to. And when somebody walks in with a belief in them, you'll see them excel. So empower them with what they can do. But be careful in the limits you put on that too. Like, again, the 20 minutes of reading every night. If they struggle with reading, let's think about that. Provide students time to share. So a big thing, and this would be for parents too, so I'll share this with the parents on Thursday, but we need to provide them time to talk and time to share with what's going on or what their accomplishments are. And sometimes students, depending on how they think, they don't realize the small accomplishments they make either. Think of us as adults, we don't even realize the great things that we do. What we focus on are the negatives. It's always been that way. I don't know why. But a lot of times, like, let's say that you do something and 100 people love it, but one person doesn't, that one person will bring you down. And the 99 that loved it won't matter. So it's important for students to start to see their greatness and not so much what they cannot do or aren't doing yet. Let's say that. Guide students to understand what literacy really is. And that they are always engaged in literacy, that it's happening all the time, that they're masters of literacy. They just don't realize it yet. So we need to share that with them. And at the same time, that doesn't mean don't teach them phonics, phonemic awareness. Oh my goodness, I would never say that. But what I am saying is guide them to realize that they're doing it and that they're successful at it. Because by the time they get to you in middle and high school, like I said at the beginning of this presentation, they're already defeated. If it's an area of struggle, they're defeated and they don't want to do it. So help them to see literacy bigger than what they know now. So summer motivation. Now we're going to click over to summer because that's what this is supposed to be about. So summer. Okay. So now we've realized that, okay, we need to motivate our students, make them feel good, make them realize what they're capable of and not focus on what they're not capable of, or, putting them into a situation where they feel, it's a lot of work. That's not what literacy is. Literacy is not a lot of work. But literacy is simply being human, and the fact that that's what we need to be able to do in order to live in society. And we don't want people taking advantage of us. And in that case, then let's become literate, right? Let's get into this idea of literacy. But stop with the 20 minutes of reading a day. I'm not telling you not to say that. I mean, let me say this. If I told my students to go read 20 minutes a day, I could definitely assign that to them. Say, okay, over the summer, every single day, give 20 minutes to reading. Okay, good. But then maybe you give them ideas of what that looks like. So maybe reading isn't a book. Maybe you do 20 minutes of, if you want to use technology, they could get 20 minutes on social media. It's reading. Maybe they do 20 minutes, they find an article to read. Maybe they do 20 minutes and have a conversation with somebody. Whatever it might be that you assign to them, let them know it's bigger than a novel. Let them know it's bigger than a book. Let them realize that it's everywhere around them. And then they'll become more motivated to want to know things. It's a game changer, my friends. Okay, so if I was going to tell my students now, all right, I want you to be somehow diving into literacy at least 20 minutes every day. 20 minutes every day, I want you to do something that is surrounded by literacy. And at this point, they would know the true definition of what literacy is. So here's what I would tell them to do. So a menu of items. Go for a walk with a friend. Yeah, literacy. Go for a walk with a friend and have a conversation with them. That's literacy. And go to a restaurant. Yeah. Your masks are starting to lift and people are starting to get vaccinated. And so let's go to a restaurant. Let's sit down, look at a menu. Let's order some food. And again, let's have a conversation. All literacy. Read a news article and then talk about it. Right? So don't just watch it on TV. Maybe you pull up an article and read a little deeper about it. Maybe there's an actor that you just got done watching a series and you want to know more about them. Okay, great. Go look for that actor and then find out some more information about them. Find out how much money they make. Find out how they got to where they are. Like those types of things are much more motivating than to tell them to read a story or just to read for 20 minutes. Discuss your future goals. Sit down with somebody, anybody, and just talk to them about what you want to do. Where do you want to go? What do you hope for? Maybe even journal that, what you hope for. And then you can look back at it years later and see if we got there. Or maybe we took a different turn. Maybe we changed our mind. So discuss your future goals. Literacy. Write down your future goals. I already said that. Play a video game. What? Play a video game. It's literacy. 110% it is literacy. Last summer when we were in the COVID times, I got that Animal Crossing game for my Nintendo Switch. Yes, I did. And it is so much reading and comprehension in order to play that game. It is insane, the amount of reading that happens and just trying to figure out how to do things. That is all working the mind. It is thinking, it is reading, it is all of those things that we look for our students to be able to do. It happens in a video game. So yeah, play a video game for 20 minutes. Dance to music. Oh, there's an art form to dance that is pure literacy. Right? To be able to move and find the rhythm to something and just be you is a beautiful thing when it comes to motivating our students for the summer. It's just dance, go dance, right? Be free. Write a story. So if you have somebody who has such great stories, and maybe they even do it in a recorder and don't write it down, like record yourself sharing a story, and then share it with somebody. And the big thing in that is this. If we ask our students to do something, we want them to share it. It's a gift that they're giving to us, a gift they're giving to anybody. So please, definitely, if I was going to want to motivate my students in the summer, it's going to be go do something and then share it with people. Go make a difference somewhere and share it. Journaling, I already kind of said that, but journaling is a powerful thing. Especially at the high school and middle school level, if we can get them journaling, a private journal, their journal. It's not a diary with a little lock, but like a journal, like to truly, and even if they get their computer out and they just start to just put into writing every single thing that they're feeling on a bad day, it is incredible the release they'll get just from doing that. So we're also looking at mental health here too. And I know that seems like a whole different webinar, but this is a piece of it, because when we get our words out, when we're able to express ourselves in some way, and that can be through dance, it can be through art, it can be through writing, it can be through anything. But when we're able to do that, there's this release that we feel. And that release is super powerful, because what the students start to put together eventually is it is through literacy that you find release. It is through literacy that you find that you are more than you've ever thought you were. It is who makes us who we are. They can go be in a play. Oh boy. So I've had so many students that were struggling readers, and they would go and be in a play, and there was no struggle. Now they memorize their lines, right? They have to, but they have to be able to look at those words and know what those words mean. They have to know what to do with their face. They have to learn all of that. That is powerful, and that is pure literacy. So if they want to be in a play, if that's something that they love to do or something that they really feel passionate about, they can do that. Sing a song. So singing a song, right? We learn the words, we memorize the words. But then we have to be able to sing it with passion. We have to be able to sing it fluently. And fluency is part of literacy. So let's get them singing. Let's get them excited about those words and excited about what those words mean. Write a song. So write a song and write a poem are almost the same thing. So something I would do, and maybe I'll share this. I'm doing a webinar on comprehension. I think it's in June, but something that I do with students is I pull actual songs. Like it could even be a Tupac song. And amazingly, a lot of people are familiar with who Tupac is. Even those kiddos that are in high school today know who Tupac is. But I will share a song with them, and I don't tell them the title of the song. I take out all of the choruses and we read it. And then we talk about the meaning behind it. And then I reveal to them that it's a song. And then I show them who the songwriter is. So if it's Tupac, it's always really interesting. Even poetry, he has beautiful poetry. And then I show them who he is, and they're shocked by him being the one that wrote this beautiful poetry. And then we talk about like not judging a book by its cover and blah, blah. I could keep going on. Love literacy. But the writing of a poem and the writing of a song well, the writing of a song is poetry. And what students start to realize is that their favorite artists, those singers, those songwriters, whoever it is that they love and listen to, and most people love to listen to music, those people are writing poetry. They're writing a story. They're engaged in literacy. So again, changing the landscape. Let's get them thinking about what do you love, because those people are all embracing literature and literacy, to create a story for other people, to create a feeling in other people. And so then they start to embrace that idea, becoming more motivated to know how to read, to become more motivated to be more, involved and embraced in literacy when they see it's a bigger picture. And of course, I put a smiley face by read a book. So some people love stories. Like I know a lot of people do, and they love to read novels, and I enjoy it as well. I know that time is definitely a factor for me at this time right now, but I mean, I love it to get in a good book. One thing with me, just a little secret, is I'm a little obsessive, which means that I'll start a book and I can't stop reading it, which then it will take an entire day of mine. In this book when I have other work I need to get done too. So I just have to be careful when I start a novel. But reading a book, some people love it, and we want them to continue to love the storyline and love what literacy is bringing to them, which is beauty, which is vacation of the mind. And again, a conversation I have with students is this idea of literacy being a vacation of the mind and bringing emotions to other people. We do that all through literacy. So those are the ways I would motivate my students. Go do 20 minutes of any of this. I don't care what it is. I don't care whatever you do. But when they come to school in August or September and they say to you that they did not read at all, they're not telling you the truth. But they are telling you the truth, because in their minds, they think reading a book is reading. When, as you see from what I just shared with you, it's so much bigger than that. So change the landscape. So I would give them this menu of things they could do over the summer. With that being said, I think I have a little bit of time. I might take you into some of these sites. I'm going to show you this literacy strategy site. This is actually really a nice little site that you can get into for some literacy strategies that you can use with students to motivate them. So let me just I'll show it to you. It's this one. So give me 1 second. Okay, literacy strategies for teachers. Now, it's study.com, you may be familiar, but you can start a free trial. And then if you really like it, if you want to pay for it to continue to use it, you certainly can. And you can see all of the different things that they do. But this one will help students with the different areas of the deeper order of thinking when it comes to literacy and comprehension. So questioning and inferring, right? So they show you a little video, connections and visualizing, like what does that look like? And I have to tell you that, and I might be getting to that a little bit later today, but the big idea here is building this schema, right? This knowledge base, which means experiences are going to impact a student in literacy. So they need to get out. They need to go for a hike. They need to go do all of those things, because all of those things that they do and their lives will help them to understand literacy or books or anything better, conversations better, being able to understand what other people are trying to tell them better, because they have a background to do that. Okay, so but making connections to yourself, being able to read something and say, oh my gosh, I know how you feel. It's the same way that they would talk to a friend that's going through a hard time or going through a great time, right? Being able to make a connection to the emotion, to the feeling that they feel, is really important. And it's that idea of empathy that honestly, I think that we are kind of losing along the way. So whether that's because of technology or because of external factors beyond that, I don't know. I haven't done that research yet, but that idea of empathy, that's what literacy brings. So by us having experiences and talking to somebody else or reading a story and listening about the character can definitely create a connection and an understanding beyond, right? Because we're able to make that connection. So we want them to be doing that in their, as they're reading or in any situation they're in. Questioning and inferring. So as you read, you should be questioning. As somebody is talking to you, maybe you should be questioning what they're saying, right? To be sure that what they're saying is truth. So I think it's a natural thing that we do as adults. And what you need to do is take the automaticity out of that and then look at what you're doing. You're asking yourself questions. You're trying to infer, what does this person really mean? Those are those things happening in your brain that are automatic that our students don't quite understand yet. So we need to teach them that. Right. And so again, through conversation, through reading, synthesizing, as we know, goes a little bit deeper when you look at that wheel that I've shared before. But this one is a good one to do too. And so if you wanted to focus in on the summer motivation menu, right? So the conversation that they're having with a friend, what they're doing in their mind as they're having that conversation, making them analyze a little bit more of what they're doing. Not saying they shouldn't just enjoy a conversation without having to analyze it, but we know as adults, we happen to have that analysis piece to us. But anyway, okay, so you can always like put something with it. Like I want you to play a game of charades and infer. So they know that what they're doing, they're playing this great game. It's a lot of fun. They're laughing a ton, but it is related to literacy in a sense of inferring. All right, so I'm actually going to stop on this website here. This one, you have to create an account to be able to get the rest of the information. But I think it's important to show you. So study.com is what this is. And you can also see additional activities. There's prompts you can do, right? Different literacy strategies, graphic organizer prompts that you can do. So there's a lot of really wonderful things that you can do here that they might be able to take with them into the summer. So I'm just going to actually slide right through these because it's in order of my presentation to you. But this is how to inspire students to read this summer. And interestingly, with this list here, there's some really good ones and some I'm like, I don't know how you would do that. So the first one is like a book talk. Book talks are awesome. They are such a great way to get students excited about reading. And so what I would say is the month before you're getting out of school or the last week before school's out, do a bunch of book talks. So students are excited to read something that maybe a friend read. Book talks are so great. They're like a movie trailer. If you think about that, you know what I mean? Like, let's say that you watch a series and you get to see like a little snippet of what's to come. It gets you excited. So that's what a book talk is. And it's really powerful that you could do right before summer hits to get them excited about some books that maybe they can take with them home if you want them reading a book. Introduce kids to book series. We know that, if you want them reading in books, a lot of times, just like Netflix, and there's a series on there, books are the same way. Help make that connection with them. Okay. The other thing is nonfiction books are more realistic at the upper level. Why do I say that? Well, we read novels and those types of things because they take us on vacation. Um, and we love that feeling of just kind of being in the world of something else. That's why we watch movies. That's why we watch sitcoms, all of which are literacy. But nonfiction is realistic for what they need to know in the real world. In this, so is fiction in the sense that we have to be empathetic. But nonfiction is what we happen to read a lot of as adults. So it's whether we're trying to do something, make something, learn something about the news, learn something about an actor, whatever it might be. Nonfiction is kind of the way that we want to take our students, so that way they know, how to critically think about a nonfiction type text if we're going to go that way. Okay, so you can set up a Facebook page that they can go into over the summer and be able to kind of talk with you about what they're reading, or not even reading, but what literacy activities they're doing. So you can do that. And then you can always post up there something you've done. It kind of keeps them connected to you, motivated. And I know in special education, a lot of times they're going to end up seeing you more than once, right? In the middle and the high school, because you're one of the special education teachers. So they're going to want to stay connected to you. So take that step, create a Facebook page, stay connected, share with them you went for a walk on the beach and had a conversation with whoever, and let them share with you what they've done. Advise families to we know this, to go to the library or the bookstore, and notice how I briefly just go over that, because it all depends on what types of what area you're in as to whether or not that's even a possibility. But encourage your students to register for Scholastic Summer Reading Challenge. So there's with Scholastic, there's always a summer reading challenge. But again, I want you to think about external versus internal. So notice how automatically there's prizes to this. However, we keep in mind that we work at a job so we can get paid, right? So there's some realism to that too. So there's that idea. And again, this website is How to Inspire the Students. This is Edutopia. Okay, really quick, because I am actually amazingly running out of time. I thought for sure we would get done early, but so this is kind of funny, and you're going to be like, why is she showing us this? But and maybe it's the next one. This one, not so much. This is the summer camps. So this was just put out May 3rd, 2021. And it just helps to know what are some summer camps that the kiddos could be part of. And some of them you pay for, some of them you don't. But this, again, is a great way to get them involved, get them communicating and interacting with other people, and having a great time doing it. So in this one, because of COVID, there's still some question as to whether or not things will be face-to-face, but some of these will be virtual. So if you have students that are not able to go out into these camps physically, they can go virtually, which is a beautiful thing. So I'm bringing technology back here, but there's a ton of things they can do. It does not matter what they are, because it's all literacy. So if they're going to do robotics, if they're going to do STEM, so there's a bunch of things here that they can be doing. STREAM. And you can see the different age groups as well, so they can get into this. So this is all for the Fort Lauderdale area that they could get into doing. West Palm Beach. So there's a bunch of things they can do. So depending on where you are in Florida, this would be a great help, even just to share the link with your parents, or maybe pull some special ones that you think they would really enjoy, like martial arts. Maybe that's something we want them to do. Okay, this right here, this was cool, I thought too. This is the Summer Camps 2021. This is the city of Fort Lauderdale too. I tried to stay in that area just because of Kaiser's right there in Fort Lauderdale. I know you're all kind of around Florida, or around areas in Florida. So I'm sure that you would have something like this in your area as well. But I was going to take you down here, middle and high school camps, so you can see what they have available here. They are something that students can do. And you can see the price for these ones are kind of expensive. It's $280 for residents. So, you keep looking. There's a bunch of things that they get, future coders, pre-camps. So yeah, so there's a bunch of things that they could be doing that would keep them embraced in literacy. This is the one where I was like, oh, you guys are going to laugh, because visit Fort Lauderdale. Well, and I'll tell you, it's crazy. And I think that somebody said to me once, have you ever done the things in your own area? Like, there's parks, there's all these things you can do, but we always go away to vacation, right? We always go somewhere else. And so, have you ever vacationed in your own town, in your own place? Have you ever found the hidden little things that are right there? And so that's why I thought this was a good thing to share with you and to kind of remind our parents that there are tons of things you can do right in your backyard, and they're free. A lot of them are free. Like, there's even museums you can go into for free. But there's Butterfly World. I mean, there's so many cool things. Art of Illusion. Maybe you guys know all these, but I'm like, oh my gosh, there's just so many things that kiddos could do in the summer with their families. And I think it's important to get families involved and get them working together with you and creating these great experiences, because something, and let me go back to my PowerPoint because we are about out of time, but something for us to remember. Give me 1 second. There we go. Okay. Something for us to remember is this little thing right here, which is, oops, and I can't highlight it because I'm in the, okay. So making sense out of what we read comes from comparing our new learning to what we already know, which is experiences. So if you can get your students not reading a book only 20 minutes a day in the summer, or even during the school year, but instead experiencing something for 20 minutes a day, which they experience things 24 hours a day. But with that being said, if they could do that, they're going to build background, they're going to build understanding, and that will impact their comprehension of whatever it is you're trying to teach them to help them to live in the real world. It will also help them to become more motivated to understand more, right? So then you can start to work more on those little skills like vocabulary, right? Vocabulary, fluency, if they want to be in plays, writing, all of the things that you could do that would impact just by giving them experiences. Go live a little bit this summer. Be a kid. Go do something great. All right. And then I just take you through. So these are those things, inspire your kids that they want to read, the summer camps, there's the websites, and the family activities, there's the websites. So what's important, let's wrap this up. The important thing about middle and high school students is that they feel like they can. They feel supported. They realize they do not need to read a 300-page book. They feel success. They feel like they are accomplishing something, and they feel intrinsically motivated. With that, I'd like to thank everybody so much for your time. I hope you enjoyed the webinar. Again, I will be back on Thursday for another one. Teachers, parents, everybody's invited. We'll be reviewing some of this stuff again and going a little bit deeper. Part 2 is on Monday of next week. Have a wonderful day. Please let me know if you have any questions.